Hi, everyone. My name is Somto Ajuluchukwu of Vortex 247, and today we have an amazing panel session for the Metaverse October. And with us, we are discussing a topic called Enter the Vortex. Now, Vortex 247 is a digital comic book publisher and publishing platform, which takes pride in exporting African culture and stories through the digital through the digital comic book medium. It's currently has over 200 comic books and has a growing subscriber base. And we're excited to kind of share our insights into the digital comic book industry and market through these professionals that we have here who work closely with Vortex 247 and widespread within the digital comic book community in the various regions across the continent and also the world. So with no further ado, I have here with me Kadi. I also have here with me Nilda Brianto. And I have here with me Sheila Amolo. And finally, I have with me Banel'siwe from South Africa. So I would let you guys introduce yourselves and run through what you do with the Vortex 247 and also what you do within the digital comic book space.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Kadi Yaote. I am in charge of acquisitions and search engine optimization, basically getting Vortex 247 platform seen online. On my own, I run a blog that covers comic books, video games, animation, but more comic books from Africa called Squid Magazine. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay. Hi, Nilda.
Hi. Hi, everybody. So my name is Nilda, and I just joined Vortex a few time ago. And I'm mostly in charge of digital events and also reports for Vortex 247.
Okay, awesome.
And I'm based in France now.
Okay, cool. Sheila.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sheila Amolo. I'm a cosplayer and a costume maker. I also work with Vortex, the East African branch. I manage social media and I host VX Live Sessions, which airs every Sunday on Instagram.
Oh, awesome. Nelly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Banel'siwe from South Africa in Johannesburg. I am in film, so I do short films, and I joined Vortex in 2015, kind of worked with them and partnered with them when we were working on an event in Cape Town. So recently, last year, I joined Vortex just to do a presentation for them at Discop. So and I run my own company also this side called AI Studios. So I'll be working closely with Vortex from now on.
Oh, awesome. So here today, we're going to be having a chat on digital comic books and how digital comic books are the answer to the African comic book industry. And the one way which we can, without borders, without restrictions or walls, export our culture through this illustrated material, comic books, to the entire world and universe, at large. Kadi, can you give us an insight into how the internet recognizes African comic books and also the kind of comic books out there? As an acquisition manager, how have you seen the types and diversity of comic books out there, and how do you see that reader translates digitally?
I mean, I'll start off with the types of comics out there. There are a gazillion stories, like everything, like across all genres, everything from fantasy to slice of life, to comedy, to action, adventure. Like there's just everything. And the great thing is it's coming from all quarters of the continent. So you have stuff from North Africa, which I found tends to be a bit more, political, but they're really amazing graphics. Then you've got West Africa, which has more of that fantasy element. Then you've got like South Africa, especially Zimbabwe and South Africa. Then you've got like East Africa, where Kenya is like this crazy hub that's just producing all this amazing stuff. Shout outs to what's his name, Salim Busu, does some amazing work. Then you've also got like Uganda also pushing some stuff, and then you've got like players that we don't really see coming up. So like we have a guy in Rwanda who's doing like some pretty amazing stuff too. So like on the continent it's just like a variety of stuff. If you're looking for manga inspired comics from Africa, I mean Zimbabwe is like your people. They have that going on strong. If you're looking for more like the Marvel DC type stuff, you can Nigeria has a ton of that. If you're looking for more like African inspired, like in terms of like the aesthetics and stuff, I think Kenya kind of like represents that. Then if you're looking for the more, cross between the Arab world and then the rest of Africa, then look at Egypt. They are just like pushing some really interesting comics from that side as well. In terms of digital being, what was the first question again?
How does the internet recognize African comics?
Yes. So what's it called? It's growing a little bit. Only thing is that usually when people say African comics, it brings up this weird conversation. Well, it's not a weird conversation, an interesting conversation, which is, do you mean comics specifically from Africa, or do you mean comics that are made by African Americans and Africans? But then there are a bunch of different, publishers. So you've got Vortex, you've got Squid. So usually when you Google African comics, chances are you'd see stuff from Africa, and then also you'd see a lot of stuff from America and then other parts of the world. So I think in terms of how the digitally how the world sees African comics is that some of it comes from Africa, but then most of it I find caters to North America. So when you type African comics, you're more likely to see like Black Panther and stuff like that, which is cool and all. But then at the same time, there's also a certain piece of the pie that African creators are grabbing. So like it's a nice battle of sorts to distinguish between what is actually like an African comic, or what's like an African comic, but then from North America or even Europe. So that's just kind of like what's happening in the digital space.
Intriguing. Nilda, looking at coming from France and actually coming from Guadeloupe, which is a French colony in the West Indies. Well, it's not a colony. Oh my bad. Which is like a French, just like which is French speaking. All right. Which is French speaking. Okay. Which is French speaking. How do you see African comic books translating to the world from the Francophone region, using the digital medium as a ship to sail across the world and get into the West Indies and get into France? And my second question to you is, how do you see the digital space, being social media, being a serving as a hub or community for the African digital artists?
So in France, the comic books industry is still like a kind of big industry. I just read that people read like in average 6 comics book per year, so it's still good, I think. But digital comics represent only like 2% of the revenues of the whole comic book industry. So it's like really short, and I think it's difficult to engage people into reading digital comics, and it's more like young people who are like curious about new content that could be attracted by digital comics than like real aficionados and people who are like collecting comic books and everything. And
okay, so how do you see like African comic books actually like getting into French culture, or French speaking communities that are outside Africa or even within Africa? We're using the digital space. Do you feel like digital comics makes that easier?
I think social media is definitely a way to enter this digital community thing, and it's a good way to interest people who are not even aware about comic books and well, just interested into African cultures and African stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
So how
know.
about like a hub for, you've been working on a project called VXR Tournament. How have you seen that as a, as a conduit for growing the activity within the community for digital artists? And how do you see that spilling back into digital comics?
I think it's a way to make this artist and make this industry like more known around the globe, and make our judges who are not based in Africa, like can make them know about what's happening in Africa. I think it's like basically showing what's there.
Okay. Okay, intriguing. Thanks for that. Sheila, what are your, you've been in the geek culture and in the, in the industry out there in Nairobi, Kenya, for a time now. What would you say is your perspective on the way people consume comics, coming from a digital perspective? Do you feel like digital comics have advanced the consumption of how comic books are being, read? Also having like a wide understanding and discussions with a lot of creators across the continent, running 18 episodes deep on your live show. What do you feel is the status of African comic books right now in the digital space?
All right. I'll speak specifically concerning what I've seen in Kenya. The geek culture has been gaining a lot of popularity over the last, say, 7 to 8 years. Let's just make it 10. And it's been growing exponentially. Like over the recent years, the numbers have been growing even more than before. And specifically concerning comic books, comic books are very popular right now, very hot. And I know that most people actually consume comic books digitally. Most people I know who read comic books, especially comic books, read them digitally. Also, this year has seen the Vortex 247 platform gain a lot of popularity, like gaining a lot of traction as time goes. A lot more people are aware of it now, as opposed to, say, at the beginning of the year, where people knew the platform existed, but now a lot of people know what the content is. I know a few people that subscribe and so on and so forth. Locally, I can compare the most recent cons I've attended to older ones. I remember back then there was only a few people doing comics, their own comics at the conventions, and there wasn't much. There wasn't much attention being given to that. But right now, local comics are very popular, African comics as well. So I feel like the popularity of African comics is growing exponentially, and digitally, I think. As time goes, more and more people are going to be reading comics online as opposed to hard copies. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like
I'm
do you
sorry.
feel like the cost
I'm
of
sorry.
digital
Can I?
copies? Okay. Keep going, please.
All right. I'm sorry. I have to interrupt. My phone is about to die, so I need to put it at the charger, which means I have to move. Really sorry about the interruption.
Okay, that's fine. You could just maybe turn off. Yeah. Do you feel like so Nelly? Moving on to Nelly. So do you feel like Nelly? What's being in South Africa and being in the comic book industry and creative space for a while now? How do you see? How do you see? The growth of how do you see the growth of the industry over there in South Africa? And how do you see digital comic books beginning to take the center lights and as a key medium of getting the comic books out there to the major audience? How do you see that happening?
So first, that would how counter is like more videos of like Trigger Chef, which mostly watch, they read stuff from these big videos, and when it comes to it's not really that big in a way. It's comics, and the reason for that is that a lot of
Sorry, Nelly, I don't know, there's an interference. Can you like, your internet seems to be,
young people do not have
your internet seems to not be the best. Is there something that you can do about that, your connection?
connection.
Yeah,
Is it fine?
okay. In the meantime, let me get into Kadi. Kadi, can you give me like a little bit of insights into what would you say is the readership, is the publishership in the industry right now? You know, how many people are making comic books per region? And then Nilda, prepare for your question, because I'm about to ask you, which was an interesting question for me, is what is Comixology doing to get into the French market? Comixology is an American company with a lot of English books. How many people are reading comic? How many people are using Comixology? And how can Africa adapt the same techniques and strategy into exporting their contents into the Francophone and foreign language market? But before you get into that, can you give me a little bit of a breakdown publisher-wise, if you're going to say per region, the percentage of publishers in each region? And how does the internet also recognize these different regions in the publishing of comic books? Oh, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself, please?
My bad. My bad. I'll just say that in terms of publishers, I would mention the big two, which is Vortex Corp and then Comic Republic. And there are other publishers in South Africa, yes, but I find that they tend to print actual physical books, and so then people like me in Ghana have limited access to those books. Whereas like on the Vortex platform or the Comic Republic website, like I see all these different comics and I can easily read. And even though I've only been to Nigeria once, I can still access it. So off the top, the big publishers on the continent, I would immediately think of Vortex and then Comic Republic. Outside of these two, there are a number of publishers across. So we'll talk, what's the name? Peter Comics, also in Nigeria, Lupe Comics in Uganda, Etan Comics in, what's the country? Ethiopia, then Avandu Vosi in Kenya, then also Enigma Comics in Zimbabwe. These, is that 5 or 6, are like the main guys that I'm aware of that stand out for me. Outside of these are kind of like the sort of established names. Outside of them, there's like lots and lots of indie publishers across. So literally people who are burning with desire and passion to make comics. They just get your stories together, get your art together, and then they push. So the majority of publishing on the continent is self-publishing. There isn't like big out there that's that's pumping money into these artists and having them produce stuff, which is why like a platform like Vortex makes like a whole lot of sense, because then you're publishing all these comics, you're putting them out there, but then no one is really seeing them. But then seeing as Vortex is like one of the top 2 publishers on the continent, it just makes sense that we are having all these comics on our platform, we're hosting these comics on our platform, so that it becomes this gateway to discovery where you don't have to rack your brains, crack your head to figure out, okay, who are the top publishers on this continent. Literally, you go on the platform and then you're just gonna like see a bunch of different creators, which is amazing, really. And So yeah, that's just about it. So for publishers, it's hard to put like a big number, because then how do you even define a publisher? Is it me in my bedroom who just publishes a comic, or is it like a more established name like Vortex or Comic Republic that has like a ton of stories under the belt? So that's just kind of it.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So real quick, finally, if you're gonna put 100% and you're gonna split that 100% among the five regions, which is Southern Africa, Northern Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, and East Africa, how are you gonna split that cake?
This is all digital, yes?
Yeah, digital, just comic books in general. I mean, most of the time, a lot of these comic books, although are in print, also do have the digital. So comic books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know in my conversations with what's his name, Ray Witcher, that South Africa isn't too big on digital. Their thing is very physical, so I'm kind of gonna exempt them, because I think digital, it's about, let's see, Quasi, that's the only one, and then the anthology by, I forgot his name, but there's this amazing South African anthology, Velocity. Yeah, so I'm gonna pull South Africa out of the equation. So I'd say that Nigeria probably has like 60% of the cake. Ghana probably has like 5. Ethiopia probably has like, I don't know, 10. Kenya probably has like 30. Kenya has like 40, I would say. Well, Kenya and Zimbabwe split like, 30,
so if
30.
Kenya has 60 and Nigeria has 46, if Nigeria has 60 and Kenya has 40, it's done.
That's done. Yeah, I know, right? So I'm just saying, like, it's hard to, like, I would put like actual numbers on it, but like I'm just saying that Nigeria. So I just probably do a ranking instead. In my opinion, Nigeria takes the lead, followed by Kenya, then Zimbabwe, Uganda, then interestingly, Cameroon. They have a bunch of really amazing creators there as well.
Yeah.
So I just put it that way. And then the other side would be North Africa. Interesting with North Africa is there's lots of indie publishers. I don't know one major publication house. And I also understand that a lot of times they tend to, because of their unique history and dynamics, they tend to route things to like the Middle East. So there might be a publisher, but then chances are they are like, I don't know, in Saudi Arabia, and then they've extended it into like Egypt or Tunisia. So I can't exactly quantify them, but yeah, definitely Nigeria taking the lead, then Kenya, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Cameroon, and then South Africa.
So it's safe to say you probably give like maybe like 50% market share to West Africa. You probably give like maybe 20% market share or 25% market share to East Africa, and then maybe 10 to Southern Africa, and the rest maybe the rest to the rest of Africa, right?
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair.
Okay, so that's thanks for the knowledge and sharing that with us, Kadi. So Nilda, do you remember the last question I asked you?
Yeah, about comicsology into the French market.
Yeah.
So comicsology had to enter the French market because the European market is as big as the US market, so they had to do something with this. And they started with signing a lot of French publishers to publish on French comics on their platform. And once they had all these publishers, then they entered the French market, and then they also translate some original DC and Marvel comics. But without that, I don't think it would be some people could read this in the original version. It's available on the platform, but it's half French comics and abroad.
So basically, for you to be able to penetrate a region, it has to be culturally relevant, which means the language and the way of life. That needs to be representative in the content.
Yeah, I think it's important, and the language is a big thing, because not everybody is able to read an English comic book.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first step, is to have French content.
Yeah. Okay. That's a major insight. Nelly, just to come back to you, because we lost you for a second in the last bit. Not to worry about it. what would you say is, real quick, what would you say is the digital market space in Southern Africa, and how you're working with that in the space of, and how that is advancing the culture of comic books?
So the comic books that are around, because most places that have access to okay, let's start with the comic books that are being printed. So there are companies like BK Publishing and Penn Macmillan. So those companies are the ones that are actually handling it. So online digital distribution isn't really a big thing at the moment. As one of the panelists was saying, he was talking about Crazy. So Crazy is one of the guys that are actually doing digital, who have a digital platform whereby they are distributing their content on that platform. So it isn't really big, and within South Africa, I don't think a lot of people, especially young black children or kids or the youth, they don't have access to platforms, in digital platforms like VX, you know. So with VX coming into play, I think they can kind of understand what's going on within that space and be a part of it as well. Because places like Johannesburg, for example, you'd find that there are a lot of content out there, and we were to last November, we realized that there are a lot of comic writers, but they do not have the platforms. So first thing is the platforms are not really there. There aren't any platforms built for young people, the youth, to distribute their content. So I think when it comes to VX, because there isn't really that are playing a role in doing that. The companies that are there, are big players, obviously, and they do not give me those to distribute their content. So currently, it's not looking at in terms of platforms, but have your own work. So really, I think VX can actually help, you know, that is there within the digital space. So in terms of that, really, I don't think there's anything that is being done. And also, like a lot of cultural, I'm gonna put it like that, a lot of differences between the cultures, because you'd find that a lot of the stuff that's being distributed, the work that is being distributed is from other countries, like westernized content, and local stories that are being distributed in any of spaces. So so there isn't much that is being done in terms of distribution or digital platform.
Okay, so so basically, in the space of okay, so basically in the space of South Africa, where comic books are being, there's a lot of print comic books, and Vortex kind of serves as a sort of solution to that situation, where we can provide these comic books that are in print in digital, and then have them more accessible to the audience in a wide scale across the continent. So digital comic books are a solution to stories that would more or less be undiscovered if not for that medium. Vortex is, putting in the work in trying to spread the gospel of African comic books, using a medium that has no boundaries and has no borders. That's exciting. Finally, before we wrap up this session, I'm going to go to Sheila. So Sheila, you were giving us a little bit of insight on, the situation in East Africa, which you had, more or less finished. Do you feel, how do you see, what do you see as a way to grow the digital readership for African comic books? You know, obviously we realize naturally that comic books sell more at Comic Cons than they sell all year when you're trying to push a digital comic book, right? You know, how do you see is a way to change this paradigm and to make digital comic books more sustainable for the industry?
All right. So first of all, I'll say, I don't know, you may have noticed there's way more consumption of digital content now than there was at the beginning of the year. And it has a lot to do with, it has something to do with, it is directly related to the pandemic and the amount of time that it's taken and everything that has gone on in the world today. At some point in the year, it became very clear that we'd be spending a lot of time alone at home in front of our screens. So more people are pushing digital content and more people are consuming. So now we know that it is in fact possible to increase the consumption of digital content, even if it's in an organic way, like what has happened this year. So I think in order to grow that, in order to grow it, we have to be a bit more intentional. More and more people are preferring digital content now, so it's really a matter of pushing it to the right audiences, and they will catch on. And the best thing is that when you're pushing things digitally, you do not limit your target audience to, like, your target market is not limited to, you know, the people in your area, the people in Africa. So now more and more people, I see even a lot of people outside of the continent, people who are not Black, taking interest in the Vortex 247 platform. So I know that now, especially now that African content is way more, African stories are way more commercially viable. There's people even outside of our races that are interested in our content. So what needs to happen is that these audiences need to be made aware that that the product is available, that the content is available. So it's really going to be a matter of marketing. Yeah. A lot of marketing is going to have to go into it. And yeah, I think as long as the marketing happens, it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. The growth of the audiences is guaranteed. And Africa will finally have a place. African digital content will finally have a place in the world market, a bigger place, standing right next to, you know, mainstream comics. Yeah. I think it's going to take time, but it's possible.
All right, thank you so much for that, Sheila. That's a very insightful take. And to wrap this session up, I'm so grateful for all of you for taking your time to be with us. We're all in different parts of the world right now because the pandemic won't let us be great. But we are still raging. We are still Vortex, and we are still the spirit universe of African comic books. And the digital comic book age has come, and we are happy to, you know, take it into the, you know, the future. All your insights have been really great. So just now, to just cap it off, I just want you to say one word. And when digital comic books come to your mind, give me one word that defines it the best for you, or a phrase. So mine would be digital comic books are the future. Kadi? I think, yeah, Kadi, you have a way of muting yourself. Oh, my bad, I muted you. Okay. Unmute yourself, please. Sorry.
Muted. Hi. Sorry about that. I was gonna say my word would be access, like, you know, having the library on the go. Access. That's my thing. Access.
Access. Okay. Now, Nilda?
I wanted to say future too, so I don't know. I think I want to say, but I'm not sure about this. Breaking boundaries. I don't know if it's the right word.
Yeah, breaking boundaries is good. Breaking boundaries is good. So just say digital comics, breaking boundaries. Yeah.
So digital comics breaking boundaries.
Okay, cool.
That should be a tagline.
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty cool. Sheila, what would you
Yeah.
say? What would you say? What would be your word or catchphrase?
I'd say when I think digital comics, I think mainstream entertainment. Not only are comics part of mainstream entertainment now, but they should be more and more.
Yeah. Okay, so digital comics, mainstream entertainment. So basically, the way to get to everyone, mainstream. Facts.
Yes.
Nelly, what would you say is your tagline for digital comic books? Nelly, are you there? I think Nelly's frozen, actually. This is a scam.
Platforms that will. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Okay.
Yes. So digital comics will give us a platform that will break borders.
Breaking borders. Oh,
I
awesome.
like that. Breaking boundaries and breaking borders.
Yeah, so today we present to you Enter the Vortex, and we're discussing digital comic books in Africa in a digital age. We all are in 4 separate parts of the continent, of the world, actually. My name is Somto Ajuluchukwu. I work with the Vortex 247, currently out here in Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria. We have Kadi, who is currently in Accra, Ghana.
Accra, yep.
Yeah, we have Nilda, Brianto, who is currently in Paris, France. We have Sheila, Amolo, who is currently in Nairobi, Kenya, and we have Banel'siwe. Can you throw that your last name at us again? Let's not butcher it.
Banel'siwe Shatwayo.
Shatwayo.
It's a Nguni surname.
Yeah, she's as the name goes, she's in Johannesburg, South Africa, or is it Pretoria, South Africa? Yeah, Joburg. Thank you so much for tuning in to Enter the Vortex at the Metaverse October New York Comic Con, and we're excited to share our beautiful world of African comic books with you through our digital platform vortex247.com, the home of African comics. Thank you.